Hi folks, Merlin here bringing you another 15th anniversary special video. A while back I informed you guys I was kickstarting celebrations for my 15th year in the hobby. Due to events in my personal life, things have been put on hold, but I'm back with you in the new year and we're going to start things again. Technically, we're still in the 15th year. It doesn't end until August time. So we're here now to kick off the celebrations. I'm going to bring you some very special videos. This is the first of quite a few. So secondly, then, after this video, I'll be bringing you my promised playthrough of the old Fall of the Necromancer campaign book. I'm still picking up components for it. I'm working on some conversion models, and I've still got a few bits to do, including some painting videos for that and the factions I'm using. Besides that, don't forget there's always going to be my coverage of Warhammer 40,000, Age of Sigmar, and Old World. I've still got my Plutonium box. I haven't touched it as of yet, but it's calling my name and I think I could do with a little bit of a change from what I'm painting at the moment. So my paint desk is actually looking a little empty. I'm finally clearing a lot of stuff from my backlog, so I think I'm ready to take on a new project, and the Plutonium box will be the perfect starting point for that project. I've already started expanding the made-to-order orders that went up on the Warhammer website this weekend just gone. I picked up the damsels, so one on foot, one mounted, so I've got those to go into a unit. I've also picked up the Bretonnian Lord with Lance on steed, so I've got a alternative Lord choice to replace the beautiful Pegasus mounted one we have in the starter box. And I also picked up the Grail Battle Standard bearer on Warhorse as well. I've always wanted that model. It was one of the ones I never got around to picking up in my old collection, so the made-to-order wave was perfect chance for me to pick it up. I did have the Lord with Lance though, but I believe I was missing I think his shield and the wings for the headdress. But yeah, it'd be nice to actually have that guy for a change. He'll probably be my main Lord. Not too sure if I'll be copying the yellow colour scheme he's painted in. I'll probably be doing my own colour scheme for the Bretonnian force in question. I'm still trying to decide which of the provinces I'm going to align myself with. I still like Paravon, the Pegasi, Rampant on the blue and black, I believe it is. But I'm also leaning more towards one of the kingdoms bordering on the Forest Arden, where there are a lot of Beastmen tribes. And Beastmen, as I've mentioned, are going to be the second faction I plan to collect for the Old World, as it's one I never collected. Right, I think that's a good enough introduction. Before we jump over the table, don't forget then to like the video if you are enjoying this content. If you are, please consider subscribing if you haven't already. We are edging ever closer to 500 subscribers. I will probably put a poll out for what people would like to see as a very special 500th subscriber video. I also want to say a big thank you to all my supporters, whether you're Patreon or YouTube. I've been having a lot of comments lately. People have been really enjoying my content, and I just want to thank you guys back in return. It's great to have all this positive feedback, and I'm looking forward to creating plenty more content for you in the future. So, I totally forgot what I was actually going to mention I'm here for today. So, without further ado, we are here today to look through this, a very special issue of White Dwarf. This is actually the first issue of White Dwarf I ever picked up. So yeah, we're going to have a look through this. I'm going to explain things when they come up as to why this is one of my favourites. I'll also talk about several different points between the White Dwarf of the time and modern day White Dwarf. There's a fair bit different, and really I think this was from the heyday when White Dwarf was really sort of ahead of its time. So yeah, right, let's jump over to my table and we'll take a look at White Dwarf 345. So here we are then with White Dwarf 345, September 2008. Yeah, going back a fair ways now. As I said, I started off in August 2008, sort of getting into the hobby. This was the very first White Dwarf I picked up. At the time, I was studying childcare in college, and the placement I was working in, a after-school club, had in its gaming cupboard a copy of Hero Quest, the classic 1980s fantasy roleplay game from MB and Games Workshop partnership. It inspired me to learn a little bit more about Games Workshop in total. So I saw this in the newsagents, picked it up, started reading. I also investigated a little by my local stockist at the time, who was Banbury's department store. They were the only people in Tiverton stocking a full range of Warhammer. There was a model shop back in the day in Tiverton called Wings and Wheels. They, I believe, had a few Warhammer kits, but they didn't stock a massive full range. But yeah, Banbury's was my only place. They had a few nice kits. I think the most standout from memory was the old Apocalypse Lehman Russ Tank Squadron box, which had like 9 Lehman Russes in it. They had one of those on the top shelf, and yeah, that was daunting for someone just getting into the hobby, seeing that big box at a big price. And yeah, thinking I'm never going to own one of those. But I have owned a few Lehman Russes, the newer version, mind, not the older version which was in that box. But yeah, I never thought I would see myself getting too into Warhammer, but it's kind of taken over my life at the moment. So yeah, let's start having a look through this issue. So the first thing you'll notice at the top, it says free gift, an assault on Blackreach Terminator and Orc Knob. So yeah, this was literally the first models I picked up from Games Workshop, effectively. A Blackreach Terminator, who was a push-fit Terminator based on the now old multi-part, but then new multi-part Terminators. And a Orc Knob, who was not so push-fit. I think he has like 3 components, the body, an arm and a head. The Terminator was the front torso, 2 arms, and the main body and legs in one piece. But yeah, they came in this, and it was a very focused issue because it was focusing on the 5th edition starter set, Assault on Blackreach. So, something you will be familiar with and is still prevalent in most modern day White Dwarfs, and that's the editorial page, although now I believe it's on the inside of the front cover. But here we see a beautiful shot of the Assault on Blackreach contents. I believe this was a poster inside the box, or the booklet for the box. I think I have a poster of this that I might have framed, I'm not too sure. I'll have to double check my hobby room. But yeah, we got the editorial, so a nice introduction there from Mark Latham, who was editor at the time. Then we have the contents list of the issue, so 3 big talking points: Assault on Blackreach, new rules for heroes from Middle-earth, and they're continuing the raids scenario packs for Warhammer Fantasy there. So, the first thing we get in the issue, which we don't get a lot of now, and that was the new releases page. So, we have the Assault on Blackreach starter set, easily one of my favourite starter sets of all time. 10 Space Marine Tactical Squad Marines, a captain who was the, I think the first plastic captain, other than the multi-part one that came out around the same time. But yeah, he was certainly a change for how captains looked. Before that, they were just slightly fancier looking regular Space Marines, maybe with a cape, maybe without. But yeah, he really set the standard. We also got, the first time in starter set history, a Space Marine Dreadnought in the form of the Monopose box Dreadnought there. And we had those mentioned Terminators. So yeah, we had one of these guys free in a magazine, and we also had one of these guys, the Orc Knobs, free in a magazine. On the Orc side then, we had a beautiful War Boss, who was definitely a first in plastic, as before that all War Bosses were metal. We had 2 units of 10 boys with plenty of choppers and big shooter each. 3 of the brand new Deathcopters, who took over nearly, I think, 15 years before we saw them return to sale. So yeah, these designs pretty much went away, and yeah, we never saw them until the most recent Orc Combat Patrol, which they first saw a release in. And as I mentioned, 5 knobs. You also got dice, templates, range rulers, rulebook in a small size, and a get started sort of book. Also alongside this, there's a paint set, which included 5 more tactical marines to add to your Space Marine side, plus starting paints to paint them up in the Ultramarines. A set of Orky barricades, not the plasticky ones we've got recently with Kill Team. These were resin ones, and yeah, pretty fancy, just load of vehicle scrap set up as defensive positions. Other new releases then was some nice models for Lord of the Rings. I'm actually in possession of both of those. They were 2 of my favourite models out of this entire magazine. So we've got the Rivendell Gandalf, who I've only recently gotten. I believe I had him before, but I might have sold him. But I do have the Elrond, my original one. He's had 2 paint schemes. I tried painting one like this, but I repainted him into a colour scheme I believe we'll see later on in this book. And there's also the 3 Hunters, so not the best models. Oh, Aragorn was actually a fantastic looking model. Legolas was kind of cool. But Gimli had a horrible positioning of the axe in his right hand. It almost looked like he'd run the axe into the back of his own head. Yeah, wasn't the best sculpt for Gimli, but they've kept a very similar pose for the plastic Gimli, but he's now charging forward with his double-handed axe in hand. And Legolas is now in a more directly firing as opposed to preparing to fire, and we of course have Aragorn with his sword drawn. Also, for the new releases, they had a preview of next month's release. So this was a Space Marine Spearhead box, which included all of next month's new releases plus the codex, usually ahead of time. They were sort of like the launch boxes we get nowadays. They're usually very limited in numbers, and yeah, big price, 146. That's kind of cheap compared to what most, actually a bit more expensive than what we have mostly now. But most of the models you do get in there were brand new metals at the time. Then we got a little note about the collector's range and the marks of armour through the ages. So Mark 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 armour there. And then we got new releases from Black Library. So Red Fury, I've actually read. Pretty cool Blood Angel story. One of the first stories that got me into the Blood Angels. I read it through the omnibus. Nagash, the Sorcerer. I actually have one of the books in that series. I believe it's the one that tells the fall of Nagash because it had Skaven in it. Then we got Empire of Chaos, a book novelization of the hit computer game Warhammer Online. Then we got a post about Forge World. Before we go into preview news. So the preview news is a look at the future. In this case, we're looking at the Warriors of Chaos, which at the time received a bunch of brand new models. So the Marauder Horsemen, the Chaos Knights. So these all came out on November 1st. So yeah, 2 months ahead of its head were. So yeah, this is one of the things that I really did like about White Dwarf at the time. It gave you previews a little bit into the future, back when they had things done in plenty of time. I mean, they still do, but they don't let us know so much ahead of schedule. They try to keep a lot of things under wraps. We got an advert for Warhammer Battle March on the Xbox 360 there, also available on PC. So yeah, another sort of RTS style game for Warhammer. Never had an Xbox, so I've never had that game. I might have it on my Steam account where I had a load of Warhammer games for free. I'll have to double check, but yeah, would be quite nice to have a look and see how that plays out. So we got news about school leagues, Games Workshop and store openings, a correction to a previous issue of White Dwarf, and something special, a Joseph Bugman getting very angry over having his pint spilled, an exclusive model from the Bugman's Bar. Moving on then, we have our first article, and this is design notes on Assault and Black Reach. So I actually read this over quite a few times as it really inspired me. We got another shot of the entire contents of the box there. And then we got a breakdown of each of the models and closer up inspections of each. We even see here the sculptor having constructing the larger model that was used as the basis. So yeah, really shows what they did back in the day to create our awesome models. So yeah. As I said, Space Marine Captain there was pretty modern for his time. They reused his pose for a monopose plastic captain with a combi grav. Not the best model, but this one was really a nice rendition for a captain. The Terminators are pretty cool. Getting them in a start set was a nice way to get yourself Terminators, and was pretty repeated over the next few starter sets. We had the Deathwing in 6th edition starter set. So yeah, Terminators have been in starter sets ever since 5th edition. And on the Orc side, we got a lot of new models. We had those awesome looking Deathcopters, the Orc War Boss, the brand new Orc Boys in monopose form, and a set of Orc Knobs in monopose form as well. Then we go into events that are in stores. So all your Warhammer stores would have held these events. Then our next article focuses on the Council of Elrond here. So yeah, we got rules for Elrond, Master of Rivendell, Gandalf the Grey there. A little note on a couple of other elven heroes, Glorfindel, Lord of the West, and Eristor, who I've recently picked up but still need to paint for my Fall of the Necromancer collection. Then we got page for the Rangers of North, so we look at the new Aragorn model, mentions the Heroes of the North there, the Rangers as well, and mentioning Gondor and Boromir. Now, let's stop here. So we start looking at the brand new Legolas and the Elves of Mirkwood. So Thranduil here, the king, this is the original model for him before they made the Hobbit films. So yeah, this was the only Thranduil at the time. Pretty cool model. And this was one of the first armies I wanted to try and collect. So Lord of the Rings was one of the first game systems I got into. And I really wanted to focus on the Wood Elves of Mirkwood. I really like their theme and their colour schemes. And yeah, I did try to get this exact 500-point army. I think I got about halfway there. I probably own all of it now, but at the time it took a while for me to get hold of the Sentinels. I had a different version of Legolas. The Captain and the Banner I managed to get hold of. I only ever did pick up the one box at the time of the Wood Elves, and I think you needed about 2 or 3 boxes to get the full 500 points. So I never did complete the full army. So I believe I've previously mentioned this on another video talking about my anniversary, but we got here the colours of Mirkwood, so the different realms of Mirkwood. So we got the mountainous elves, which have green and grey. We got northern Mirkwood with a sort of a dark greeny brown and camo greens. We've got the Greenwood Eves, who incorporate white into their colour scheme. And one of my favourite colour schemes, which I've actually managed to crack down and sort of get perfect, and that is Franduel's Guard. So these were the personal guard of Franduel. Not the armour-clad ones that we see in The Hobbit. These were just generic wood elves, but coloured in autumnal colours of gold, yellow, sandy browns, and a red there as well. So I will be doing a paint guide for how I painted my guys close to the time I release episode 1 of the playthrough for the Fall of the Necromancer, as it does incorporate Franduel and his personal guards as they retreat away from the forces of Dol Guldur. And then we got a similar article here for Gimli and the dwarves. I must admit, I do kind of like the Lord of the Rings dwarves, but I've never been the biggest fan of dwarfs, so not been one I wanted to collect. Again, we got some cool colorations here of different dwarf holds. So the Company of Dane, Ironfoot, Dwarves from the Blue Mountains, the Royal Guard of Erebor, and Wanderers. Then we got a couple of scenarios. So one is all about the Free Hunters. So we get the Free Hunters of Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli facing off against 50 points of evil models. And each individual model should be between 5 to 20 points range, and focus as best they can on orcs, Uruk-hai, wargs, dunlendings. Then we got a In Defense of Rivendell scenario, so Frodo with the Ring and 1500 points of heroes, representing the Council of Elrond. And then the evil side, the Witch King and 1500 points of warriors and heroes, representing the assembled legions of the Witch King. So a small little skirmish battle and a more full-on sort of army battle. Moving on, they got a continuation then for their Warhammer Fantasy Battle Raids article. So this is first of 2 parts. We got Gav Thorpe discussing how to make a fun little narrative-led set of missions in the form of raids. So you want to make use of the Watchtower kit. We see here converted into an orcified one. Looting markers, and then we got a couple of scenarios. So the Watchtower is at the center here, where we face off and try to take control of. Scenario 2, looting and pillaging a small outpost. So we've got a couple of towers, some buildings, and then we got a specific army here, focusing on the Dread Raiders of the Dark Elves. And this was another one of the armies I wanted to try and collect. I did, however, have a love-hate relationship with Dark Elves. I loved them, but they hated me. My dice rolls were usually pathetic, even for a Dark Elf army. Yeah. Again, didn't go too well. Then we got an advert for Dan Abnett's Titanicus novel coming soon. And then we're into an article that you should be familiar with if you have collected White Dwarf in the past few years. And that is the Tale of 4 Gamers. So this was a challenge for 4 members of the White Dwarf team to collect armies, play games against each other, and find out who the best warlord is. So it named as Tale of Four Gamers back in the day, but Tale of Four Warlords is the more modern day version. So we had Space Marines, Eldar, Chaos Space Marines, and Orcs. And yeah, each one started off with a battle force and slowly built their armies up from there. I believe this is actually, the second month of the collection, so it started last issue. And this is where we're going to stop again, because I want to talk about Neil Hodgson's beautiful Crimson Fists. This was the Space Marines colour scheme I fell in love with when I saw it. And even to this day, I still love the Crimson Fists colour scheme. The dark blue with the splash of red and bright colour in the form of the white there for like loincloths and stuff. It really did help the colour scheme stand out quite a bit. So yeah, he started off with the Battle Force, which is roughly 500 to 800 points worth of models. So it came with 15 Tactical Marines, 5 Scouts, 5 Assault Marines, and a Rhino. And then this month, as Assault and Black Reach was brand new, he's added the contents of that to his army. So yeah, he's got a 750 point list. So this is the 4th edition points cost for Space Marines, so things are a little more pricey now. Yeah, there's his captain, Fernandez, and he's got himself the Dreadnought there as well. So yeah, this was easily one of the first Space Marine armies I saw and fell in love with the colour scheme. Once I started reading the lore, I fell in love with them a bit more. They are a really unique chapter almost. Yeah, really cool. They've been through a lot, but they have persevered. A bit like myself. Next up then, we have Pete Foley and his Eldar. So he's already got a pretty extensive Eldar army. He's just adding to it with a new detachment. And here we have White Dwarf legend Matt Hudson and his Red Corsairs. So this is another army that I like the look of. Have never collected at the moment, but if rumours are true and Huron himself gets a brand new model sometime soon, I may just turn the remainder of my Black Legion project into a Red Corsair project. I have the contents of the Combat Patrol plus the Premium Kit 1 from Warhammer Imperium. So I can easily build up and paint these guys as Red Corsairs. It'd be quite nice. Yeah, he adds some really cool flavour to his army over the months. He's even got a squad that used to be Space Wolves, but have now pledged their allegiance to Huron Blackheart and the rest of the piratical Red Corsairs. And then we have Phil Dunn with his Orcs there. Much like with Neil, he's added the contents of Black Reach to his army. And yeah. Then we go on to a nice little article focusing on the Assault on Black Reach campaign, which includes 3 missions that you can play at home with your friends and family, if you have, of course, the necessary components. So, Scenario 1 is the Eye of the Storm, which just uses the contents from Assault on Black Reach. Scenario 2 is a apocalypse-sized game, so we assault the Orc layer. So the Orcs have a giant submersible, and the Space Marines get access to a Thunderhawk. And yeah, pretty big size game, usually 3,000 plus points. At least 3,000 points a side there. So yeah, pretty fun little game. And the article that, the scenario that will actually be featured later on in the magazine, the Beast at Bay. So a small force of Orcs and Space Marines facing off against each other as they are sort of retreating back across the planet of Black Reach. And here we have the battle report itself. So yeah, the final part of the campaign. We see Captain Sicarius leading his Ultramarines, crushing off a retreating Orc war boss Zanzag. So yeah, Captain Sicarius, so this is before Sicarius actually got his own model. He was the named character from the starter set, but he got his own model eventually. Had a librarian. We had 2 tactical squads. I thought it was 3. A Devastator squad, 2 Terminator squads, and 2 Scout squads, plus a Dreadnought and a Whirlwind there. And for the boys, we had 4 units of boys, 2 units of knobs, unit of mega knobs, some Gretchen, the new Deathcopters, a mech, the war boss, and some trucks. So yeah, I read this article, much like the previous Black Breach focused one, quite a few times. Loved reading this battle report, read it on car journeys as a kid. And yeah, really loved the tactical sort of display they had here, letting you know which units are where. And yeah, we had, of course, the in-game shots. So turn 2, Zanzag's war attacks. And we see the Ultramarines being pushed more on the defensive as the Orcs surge forwards towards them. Then we got the Terminators deep striking in and striking back. The Dreadnought assault there. Incoming at the Deathcopters on turn 3. The Scouts have also snuck ahead of the main Ultramarine force. The leaders fight off in a classic cinematic battle. We see the Orc Knobs and Zanzag up against Sicarius and his tactical marines. Then we got the final scrap in Ultramarines turn 3. A little mention on Librarian and Shooters there. Turn 4 was much a brutal fighting retreat on the side of the Ultramarines. And turn 5 was a wipe them out, basically. The Orcs just mopping up the last few remaining forces. And yeah, I got our battle report roundup. So what the 2 players thought about the units they used and the battle, and even a famous favourite unit scene there from the battle itself. Then we got an article all about Apocalypse and at the new time Apocalypse Reloaded magazine scenario book. I believe I still got one of those in my box of trinkets. Yeah, Apocalypse Reloaded included a load of new datasheets and assets, as well as attachments that you could use in games. So another stopping point is the standard bearer. So this was an article that had a look at the different sides of the Warhammer hobby. This particular article took a look at their range of specialist games. So we got classic games such as Battlefleet Gothic, Inquisitor, epic scale games such as War Master, the Battle 5 Armies, and Epic Armageddon. Classic tabletop game, Blood Bowl there. We have Necromunda and Mordheim, which was pretty much the sort of Necromunda, but in the fantasy world. And we see the Witch Hunter Warband there for Mordheim. One game I really wanted to get into at the time was Mordheim, but sadly it went out of stock before I had the funds to get into it. Yeah, some really cool games there. The only one here that I have is I do have the rulebook for Inquisitor. Uses larger models, but you can adapt the rules to use for 40k models. And it's something I was wanting to do at my local gaming club. There's a few other games that are out of date now, out in print now. So Gorka Morka, which was sort of Necromunda, but only orcs. And yeah, so I've got some models there. A Blood Bowl Dark Elf, a Delac Gunner, and here we see the larger Inquisitor models. So 54mm models mostly on 40mm bases. You got Inquisitor Eisenhorn and his kill team there, looking really ferocious. Then we move on to probably one of my favourite things of the White Dwarf at the time, which was the Hobby Essentials articles. So these are little fun articles that gave you advice on how to find alternative uses for various different things. In this case, we're looking at an alternative use for modular movement trays, which were released back in 2007. And yeah, so usually used to make movement trays for your Warhammer Fantasy or Old World armies. This article showed us a few ways to make use of them in different ways. So one is to use them as bases for scenery. We see here a Chaos Ruin stuck down onto a base, which has been cut up with clippers to make it look like it's a stony floor, and then detailed with some scenic elements there, sand and lichens. Here we see a full sheet used as a base for a large city ruin, so we got a visible footprint for it on the tabletop, back when footprints of buildings used to be very important. Then we got a hobby workshop focusing on how to make the most out of painting your copy of Assault on Black Reach. So we got the Ultramarines Tactical Squad here in the basic Ultramarine colours. So back in the day, base coated black, undercoated black, and base coat with Mauleon blue at the time, and bolt gun metal on the metal details. Then picking out the metallics, so shining gold for the gold details. Then we can add some highlights, so Mithril silver and Ultramarines blue were used. Then we just base our models to match our collection. We got a little bit of a brief explanation about the breakdown of a Space Marine company. So we got chapter badge, squad markings, and company colours. So 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th, and the different colours. So Ultramarines, we know, 2nd company in the yellow or gold. 1st company is white, 3rd is red, 4th is green, 5th is black, 6th is orange, 7th is purple, 8th is grey, 9th is blue, and 10th has no particular colour. We also have a mention about Space Marine transfers, so we actually had in the Black Reach set enough transfers for each of these chapters to detail the models in the box. Some campaign markings and squad markings as well. And they even go to show some of the Assault on Black Reach models painted in the colours of the different chapters. So we've got a Salamander there, Crimson Fist, and a White Scar. We've got another painting article focusing on the Terminators and the different colours there is with them, and the same for the Dreadnought. We also have a top tip that if you have spares from the multi-part Terminators, you can indeed incorporate them with these push-fit ones. As we see here, they've took the model that came with a magazine, because it has the grey base, removed the front, stuck on a head and front torso from the Terminators, and the missile launcher from the classic Terminators as well. Then the article continues with a look at how to paint Goth Orcs, including a tutorial on checker markings and the Orc transfers from the transfer sheet. Look at painting a Nob, a Deathcopter, and then a heavy metal gallery there of the models in question. And now we take a look at the masterclass. So each issue usually had a masterclass of a model from a previous release. In this question, we're looking at the Dark Elf Dreadlord, which came out in July with the Dark Elf release. So yeah, brand new cold ones, and had a brand new Metal Lord. I actually had this guy and tried to follow this guide, but didn't get much success. I didn't get these same sort of hues and the greens as they did here. I did, however, follow the Citadel, the Heavy Metal Masterclass. That was for Cato Sicarius. Follow that several times for painting his model. Yeah, these are really handy. They took you through stage by stage how to get a really good end result for usually standout centerpiece models for your collection. Yeah, here we see him with a unit of the brand new at the time Cold One Knights. So next up, we've got articles looking at events. So this is Golden Demon in Poland for 2008. A calendar here for all the different events yet to come in 2008. So different events. Store finders. So the only way you could find out where your local store was usually to look up the store finders. So yeah, GW, Exeter, Plymouth and Torquay. Doesn't mention Tiverton. It does. At the time, brand new, Banbury's. So yeah, there we go. Yeah, pretty handy guide. This covers the whole of the UK. They even have a chance for you to win a battle force or battalion by entering a I Want a Store competition. So pretty handy. Then we got a much missed art piece, I think, from White Dwarf that we don't see a lot of, and that is clubs directory. So yeah, not many in Devon. We only have Plymouth Cross Swords and Plymouth Association of Wargamers. So yeah, not a lot. There's quite a few now though, but yeah, back in the day it was very little. It's nice that they used to support independent gaming clubs back in the day. I'd like to see a return to that though. Then we have a reminder of other kits that are available to order, especially usually ones that were shown off in the battle report. So we got the different librarians, the Devastators, the Scouts, and the Whirlwind. And the Orc kits there as well. So the Gretchen, the Mega Knobs, the Mech, and the Trucks. Bits packs, which used to be able to, a fun little bit you could order. So here we see a lot of fantasy shields. So orcs, goblins, high elves, dark elves, and even lizardman ones there as well. Finally then, at the back of the book, we have how to make your orders. So in-store, online, or ring up the customer team. We also have advance orders. So this is the sort of stuff that will be coming out in the month afterwards. And we even have a list here of upcoming releases. So the next month, as it was a new edition at the time, the first release of nearly every edition is Space Marines. So they had a brand new codex, plastic scout bikes, the drop pod saw its first release back then, as did the Land Raider Crusader. And look at that price, £35. Can't believe it's now nearly 60. Yeah, Space Marine Scout bikes were £7 for a single model. Pretty cool, nice pocket money sort of thing. And the drop pod was 18. I believe it's nearly double that now. Yeah. So on the back you got the form to fill out to subscribe to White Dwarf, or even ask your newsagent to hold you back a copy each month. And yeah, we have the back page dedicated to what's coming in next month. In this case, it is Space Marines. So not only did we get the drop pod, we had Metal Vanguard, Metal Stern Guard, the Metal Sicarius, the Metal Thunderfire Cannon, and the Metal Sergeant Telion, just to name a few. We also had stuff for how to use magic in Middle-earth, and the second part of the pillage and plunder raiding scenarios. So yeah. And then, again, the back cover was just, it's coming next, Space Marines. So, yeah, there we have it. That was my look through at the first ever issue of White Dwarf I picked up. White Dwarf has definitely come a long way since then, but as I previously mentioned, I really think this was its heyday. It certainly was slightly different to what we have now. It looked more into the future for things. Nowadays, it's usually, this is out this month, and that's pretty much it. We don't get, well, we didn't used to get as nice about reports as this. We are seeing a return to that, though. The preview for the latest issue of White Dwarf showed a really nice, back to the old day sort of battle report for the old world. It's nice that we got rules in the books again. We see rules in this month's issue of White Dwarf for a Tyranid combat patrol, focusing on lictors and the Von Rhein Leapers. So one that I'm definitely going to be planning to collect. And yeah, definitely, I do like or rather I say, I do miss the hobby articles. We don't get so many of those. Back in this day, we had lots that gave you alternate ways to make use of your kits, as we see how to make use of the movement trays. If you've got odd bits left over, you can use them to mount some ruins on for putting onto your gaming table to save them being knocked over. But yeah, I believe there was another article in a future White Dwarf that really showed you how to make the most out of various different upgrade kits at the time. So 2009 March, there was the Blood Angels release, which is the first time they got a really good range refresh. And that had lovely articles on how to make use of the Death Company kit and how to put it onto your other Space Marine kits and make them more Blood Angels. Another issue I'm going to be looking at in a future video is the 2011 issue, which was the launch of the Plastic Grey Knights. Yeah, gonna have a look at that one. That has a beautiful article in there on how to make the best out of the Grey Knight kits, which were all brand new at the time, including how to make really nicely posed variants of all the different Strike Marine kit squads. So the Interceptors, Purgation, Purifiers, and Strike Marines, how to make them really nice and dynamic posed as well. But yeah, that's going to be for a different video. Let me know if you have a particular favourite White Dwarf, and if you would like me to look at it. I have quite an extensive backlog of White Dwarfs. I did have all the White Dwarf weeklies, but I eventually recycled all of those, except for the content that I wanted to keep, which was usually paint guides. Let me know what you'd like to see in future videos, and yeah, let's just have a friendly natter as usual down in the comment section. Big thank you then to everyone who's watched this video, all my subscribers and my supporters wherever you are. So, thank you all for watching, and until next time, stay safe and happy hobbying.